only.
10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Only.
Hello and welcome to Up Only TV. I'm Ledger. Kobe's here, as you know. We'll be here as well with Dan Matuszewski, aka CMSHoldings, and then cat and ape people that we'll find out more about them in a moment. That's all. That's what their avatars are, though. Before we get to it, let me tell you about FTX. Go to uponly.tv/FTX. You can trade there today. It used to be Blockfolio. It's the same great app that you've known and loved. Go directly from one asset to another. Earn 5% yield beyond $10,000. Earn 8% yield on your first $10,000. That's a lot better than anywhere else for getting yield on your tokens. Do it at FTX. Thanks to them for being our partners. Uponly.tv/FTX. Let's get to the show. Kobe.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing well. We've got.
Do you reckon we should do a sweepstake on when FTX will send us a new pre-roll video so we don't have this old Blockfolio one that says, actually FTX stuck on top of it? Because I think it's probably low on their priority list. Look, so I reckon it might be like 2022.
They pay us pretty well to put the wrong name on our podcast. If they don't care, I don't care. So
I think for the next one you should record an advertisement in like absence of proper material. So it should be you at home with your phone, like use FTX, and we should just do our own advert. It'll be way better.
Yeah, like the mall display, you know. I'm doxing my family there. So
all right, let's get to the people on the call listening to us chat shit. Dan, how you doing? Welcome.
Yeah, doing good. Hope you guys are doing good.
I'm all right. Jason, how you doing?
Doing good.
Good. And then Jim Talbot, maybe the most requested guest ever from a very particular part of crypto Twitter. Jim.
They're going to hate me today then, I think. How you doing?
Welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, man.
We need to qualify for people that don't know that this is Jason from Telegram, who's morphed into an AVAX ape for his profile picture, and then Jim is the cat. So you know, if you're not aware of every person's everyday changing NFT avatar on crypto Twitter, now you know it's Jason from Telegram and Jim Talbot.
Oh well.
Yeah, we got Jason Talbot, Jim Talbot, cat with a bowl cut and what appears to be a poorly drawn cartoon ape.
Oh, and the the Twitch chat is emote only, so I can allow people to talk now. Apparently, wait,
emote only is actually kind of cool. Yeah. It was quite nice.
So Nomad sent me this thing that was like, hey, there's a vulnerability, you can get screwed over, so you need to turn your chat to emote only, and I forgot to fix it. So they were just emoting away over there.
All right, so we're back.
Hello,
all right, so I kind of forgot we were on Twitch, if I'm honest, because I closed it because I find it really distracting, and now I've got it open again. Let's see how I go through the show. All right, so we got a bunch of things to talk about today. What sort of stuff is on your mind, Ledger? What has been on your mind this last week?
As our good friend Andre Kranji would say, I'm just enjoying the Up Only lifestyle. I've embraced it, and we got, I think, 1/3 of the real like Up Only maximalists of crypto Twitter and Dan on the line, and we don't have Kaleo today, but I think we would have broken the bulls if we had both of them. So I'm glad we have Dan here because he's just been shaming the bears ever since it was very unpopular to do so, and yeah, I want to know how you're feeling, Dan, being like so close to all-time highs on Bitcoin, ETH. You're living that Solana life in price exploration. How you doing?
Yeah, it's a lot of things wild. Good. I think like it was kind of wild, like how everybody got really negative, like right when it flipped. I think I was like listening to you guys, like I think you even said something and well, just the chat was just so depressing. Like I was like watching people, like I was reading it, and I was like, Jesus, I was like, can it really be more, like I don't know, bearish? So like I mean, like that's obviously the pivot, like, but I think like realistically though, there's just so much money moving in the system, right? Like you hear about $1 billion equity raise like a week now. Actually, like $1 billion is light, right? Like they're more like multiples, like 3, 4. You hear about like funds raising 5, 6, $700 million, like left and right, and some TradFi group is like there's just a lot of money pushing in. So it's inconsistent in my mind that it's like not going to hit like the coins at some point, right? Like it's like this weird flow of capital where certain pools can only get in certain ways, right? And that's why you see equity valuations balloon, and then you see funds raise large because like that's like another avenue that it comes in. But at the end of the day, like there's more money trying to push in than trying to push out. Like 2018 was like a fight for the like exit, right? Like people were like, I need cash, I need to get out, this is going to zero. Now it's like, yeah, there's like movements around of like liquidations and stuff and short-term timeframes. Like very much the trend is like people are like, there's more money getting in than there is sort of trying to like move out of the. And the other like argument I keep having is like, all right, like let's say you like take a bunch of money to cash. Is like, well, what do you do with it then, right? Like, you know, this whole like idea like you can't just like live in a vacuum. Like you have to then like do something with it. So I don't know. I think that's all like a really big sort of trend that's just going to continue with crypto. Like I don't see any slowing down of it. Like there's going to be swings, obviously, but I don't know. Like the real trend for it is definitely higher.
I like your final argument. Like, what am I going to do with the money? You're saying it's bullish because all the holders have already got yachts. It's like, what am I going to? I already bought my yacht. What else am I going to do?
I mean, like, right? Like, you buy a couple of houses, you buy a nice car. Like I don't, and like you give some of it away to charity. I do think there's like a reality of it though. Like at some point, you're like, well, I don't need to sell that like next incremental sort of like piece of it. Like I do think there's some truth to that.
Yeah, I do like that we did the light bearish propaganda episode at the absolute bottom. He went full like he was like euthanasia coaster.
I mean, I felt it while we were on air. Like I was tweeting while we were talking to him. Like, surely this is the bottom. I'm buying something right now. It's like
it was fun.
Sometimes you just got to roll with countering the sentiment. And
sometimes you got to counter yourself.
Yeah. Why don't we start with Jason, since you're the picture on the left. Get your kind of feel of the market at the moment.
Right now, so the last few months have definitely been pretty interesting. By all intents and measures, like I feel like we kind of like had this weird, like never before like expedited bear market, and like a bunch of metrics pretty much just flipped bullish over the last month. Locally, I think there's like a pretty good like coin flip chance for like either going higher or lower in some sort of like bullish corrective wave, but like it's definitely in a way better spot than it was 2 months ago for sure. So from an on-chain perspective, it's like so many different indicators are kind of like out of whack with where you would expect them to be. If you look at like TA or if you look at one indicator, you might be like, oh, this is pretty bullish. And you look at another indicator like dynamic MVT, and you're like, that's incredibly existentially bearish. And so it's been an interesting exercise to go through different metrics and go, how much signal do you give me? How much signal do you give me? And like see where you land. It's definitely been very hard and challenging. So yeah, I think there's a reasonable chance for bullishness and a reasonable chance for like some sort of correction. I'm just kind of playing it level by level, and I would love to hear what
it's either bullish or it's bullish selling.
Yeah, rather going up or rather going down.
I love bullish selling. That's my favorite kind of selling.
Jim, what about you? How have you found this? Do you hate it when it goes up, or is it just a meme?
No, well, basically, I'm more of a trader, really. So, and I thrive in range bound markets with mean reversion. So when it's like hard trending, I do sort of don't enjoy it as much personally from a trader perspective. but no, I do tend to do it just to rub people up the wrong way and trigger people.
I all the way up, I was like, I swear, I see a tweet from Jim, and you say something like sort of ominous. And I'm like, oh no, it's like it's coming. Who's what?
Who's Jim, by the way? Like
he's a guest on Up Only.
No, but what's his background?
It's Jim Talbot.
I don't know. I just followed him.
I'm just a shit posting day trader.
I just followed him on Twitter like 12 seconds ago because it sounds like Kobe uses him as a counter trade. I don't know.
No, because like on the way down, he would always post something like "Here it comes," and then like 10 seconds later, it would just go. I was like, "Fucking hell!" And then on the way up, it was like, something's brewing," and I'm like, "Oh God, no! Here we go!" And then it would just go. and then I'd see a tweet from Jim like, "Don't know what's going on anymore."
No, when it's range bound, I just like fucking with people really, because it's quite easy just to counter trade general sentiment really. So I just play off that really. But as far as sort of, obviously I'm an order flow type trader, and I'd say since sort of the 29k bottom, the order flow has changed significantly. So it's been definitely more difficult to adapt to the market since there's just been a change of power, I feel, in the sort of where the volume is being traded and how it's being traded. So it's definitely different.
So you're like watching the tape and the order books real close.
Yeah.
So is that how you've always traded, or is that something that you learned in crypto?
No, I've only ever really traded crypto, and it's pretty much how I've always done it. But yeah, I'm a mechanical trader really. So when it comes to anything fundamental,
mean? Like, what does that mean? I'm outing myself as like an actual complete noob. But like, what does it mean to watch the tape and the audio? How do you trade like that? What do you do?
How do I?
If I start like throwing random orders in the order book, does it fuck you up?
No, not really.
All right.
No, it's just basically, I trade off imbalances and things that I see in the tape. If I see aggression with no follow through at certain levels, I'll fade it and stuff like that.
All right. So you're on a much shorter sort of time scale then, and a much shorter like you're looking at like what happens over the next like days or weeks rather than what happens over the next
not even days and weeks really, like
minutes.
The next hour. Yeah. I trade the 30-second chart mainly. So
what? Where do you even get to see a 30-second chart?
Where did you default to that?
You get on TradingView.
Yeah, you have to pay for TradingView, Kobe. I don't know if you could afford it.
Bro, I got it free. Because the TradingView founder follows me on Twitter and he gave me admin coins or something. So I like the TradingView lot. They're nice.
Dan, where do we sit with derivatives right now? I mean, I can't have you on without asking if like futures curves need smushing or not.
Yeah, it's rich. Look, I'm bullish as the next guy, but like financing's high. It's high definitely relative to where it's been the last couple months. I mean, obviously like it was like negative for a while. Like it didn't like touch backwardated, but like it was a pretty flat curve. I think you had financing out to December at like 4 or 5%. It's like probably doubled there, like on the longer dated stuff. And then like front month futures, like perpetuals are very, very expensive. So I don't know. That's not great. Like that's probably not like a super like bullish thing because there seems to be a good amount of leverage that's moved in the system over the last like week. So yeah, and like you have September expiry coming up, right? So you've got like 3 weeks left on some of those front month stuff. Like people are gonna like start selling those aggressively, probably to knock that in line. So we'll have to live through that. But I don't know. I mean, like that can move very quickly, and all you need is like a good slug of cash to come in, and it like sort of evens out. But it's definitely rich to be like holding long positions here. Like you're paying for that. So yeah, I don't know. Like that's like the one thing that gives me a little caution about like where we are.
Well, the thing that gives me caution about where we are is like in the whole like run up, it was pretty much up only basically, right? Like it genuinely was up only until start of the first couple of weeks of August, and then we just sort of consolidated until now, and then like sort of up only again over the last few days. And the whole way up through a move like that, when it's just grinding up and not giving you any dip, not giving you any sort of material pullback, I think from like mid-July to mid-August, there was only like one red daily in Ethereum. Like it's just one in the middle, and it was not even like a substantial down move. In moves like that, you get a lot of people who are like, I don't want to buy in because I'm scared of buying the top of this wave. I'm just gonna wait for it to dip and then buy in, and it just doesn't give you a dip the whole time. But we're in the range now where it's like, all right, so ETH's like 38. and the top was 43. So you have a bunch of people's like, if I'm going to buy, I may as well just buy the all-time high breakout now. Like, I don't care about like that additional like 10% just for 10-15%, where you're adding tons of risk. Because I was scared of buying the top the whole way, and now I'm not going to fucking buy the top when I can just buy the all-time high breakout. So that's why I get scared, because there isn't much juice left in the difference between there and all-time high, and where buyers can sort of just go, yeah, I can just wait to bid rather than FOMOing in.
So what do we do in the meantime? Buy Fidenzas and hope they go up in value some more, or what?
We could finally buy some pints, Brian.
Wow, chilling his pint bag, second time in a row on the show.
What even is it? I think I asked this last time. I did not recall the information. I did not store it.
It's a very low liquidity game.
Great. That's very responsible of you, Jason.
I gotta do Securious a solid and keep that pressure going on you, Brian.
Yeah, Jack and Dale will be very happy. Yeah, I mean,
What they
go ahead, Dan.
No, so I was gonna say, the other thing that like I think has been going on the last couple of days is like you have monthly inflows for all of like sort of the funds, right? So like, and it's a quarterly one. So there's probably been like some cash that's moved into the system, but like I am of the opinion that like the margin usage is like way larger than that, right? So like it's not like, oh, like the cash market came in and sort of like bailed out like all the levered guys. Like I think like there's a little bit of that probably helped, but and you definitely see that in the dispersion, right? So in a dispersion, I mean like there's a lot of dislocation. Like I don't have like there's metrics and equities for this, but there's not necessarily one from crypto for like how much the individual components are moving apart from each other, as opposed to like just having directionality with like Bitcoin. But you definitely have seen a lot of that over the last like couple of days, right? Like you have a lot of things that are moving and having big outsized moves, and then other stuff that's either flat or down, right? Like there's a lot of dislocation in the market, and that's probably because there's individual like sort of names being picked by like certain like funds. They're like, oh, like we got our allocation, we own this, and this, and like those are like sort of like getting like the inflows to it. So I think that leads to a lot of that, which has been going on over the last like 2 or 3 days. But like still, that's just like not enough to like offset what's being open.
Yeah, the hot potato money ball.
Yeah,
The flaming ball of money.
flaming ball of money.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it quite a lot in Avalanche, right? Where like the entire Avalanche ecosystem went like minus 85% because Phantom announced an incentives program, and then in Phantom, like everything in Phantom like tripled, and then Phantom were like in 3 months, and then everything Phantom went down 85%, and the Avalanche stuff went back up again. It was like, okay, so it's just the same money cycling around.
That was like the most just like direct trade I think I've like seen in like a very long time, where we're like you just immediately were like, oh, AVAX isn't like the thing now. It's like Phantom for like this like immediate like what, and it happened immediately. It was so like usually like stuff like that like takes a little bit of time for like the market to like figure it out. But like every ape like immediately just like got it. They were like, nope, now we do Phantom. Like we just like we're going.
Except for me, that dramatically impacted my net worth because I was holding more than one Avalanche altcoin that just got like nuked like 30% while I was sleeping.
Yeah.
Well, Avalanche has, I was gonna say they have that last like material unlock that goes through, and then like it's kind of like smooth sailing after that. Now I don't know how much of an overhang that is on the market, but like we do get through that this week.
What do you think about unlocks? Because a lot of unlocks, when the project is like relatively hyped and doing quite well, they're unlocks only in name often because a lot of coins have changed hands OTC at a discount beforehand, and the new sellers got a higher price entry anyway. Sometimes the new buyer has relocked tokens as part of their agreement to buy at a discount. But when it's like some weird like Pokemon-esque shitcoin, the unlocks are just bearish because it's loads of people just ready to sell and there's no OTC activity because no one actually wants it. But how do you think about unlocks in general? Because obviously you have Definity where it was like just fucking down only for minus 95%. But then you had the Solana ones at the start of the year where it just like everyone was like, oh my big unlock, and then it just fucking went turbo. So.
Yeah, so a lot of times it like pays to know what's going on in the OTC markets for that stuff. So like Solana in particular, like so we bought a lot of Solana pre the unlock, right? So like there were a lot of negotiations. Like the Solana Foundation would like connect sellers with like buyers, being like, all right, are you looking to buy some? Like this guy's trying to sell some, and like there was towards the end of it, it kind of became hard to source more, right? So like they would be like, hey, this guy's got 1 million units he wants to sell. And like, if you didn't respond fast enough, it'd be like, oh, I already sold it. So like, it became pretty apparent that there was a lot of demand for this, or like somebody was buying tons of supply that was out there. I mean, we got a good slug of it through that, but it also gave us a lot of conviction that there wasn't a lot that was going to hit the tape just because there was so much that had been purchased. And the back of the curve, so like the March future, I think it was when that unlocked, was trading something like 7.5% under spot. So like really you could just like start buying those, because that was the proxy that the OTC market like were using, right? They were like, all right, whatever it is, the March future is what we'll sort of buy them at. But you could just buy them yourself. Like anybody could like sort of go in there and still purchase. So then those started getting bid pretty well. And you could kind of tell that like the unlock had sort of like work. Like there, you can usually get a pretty good idea if the futures are liquid. And if the futures are liquid and there's a front month that's liquid, like a tenured future instead of a perp, you can kind of get a good idea of like how much is being hedged and like what the implied selling is going to be. And if there's a perp, you can like somewhat back it up. So like Avalanche in particular, right? Because like this one's just relevant. Like there's 2.5 million open interest. I just have FTX up. That's like what I'm looking at on just FTX. Let's assume there's like the same on Binance. So there's 5 million open interest. They're paying, I don't know, like ungodly amount in financing to be long it, like sort of getting back to my point. But like if you were a holder of that position and you wanted to like hedge it, I mean, you could just take that off now, right? Like the market will like easily absorb that. So like the actual date is like not that relevant in my opinion now. Like if you wanted to like hedge this or you want to take that risk off, like you have ample opportunity to do it. So like the actual D-Day, all right, the coins like are like able to move, like doesn't matter as much. But like that liquidity is like why that matters. It's like you say, if you had some token that like nobody trades and nobody cares about, like, yeah, that's like a much different like conversation.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And have you been playing in these like ecosystems, like these shitcoin ecosystems that spin up when you can copy paste stuff from ETH into the EVM compatible whatever?
Oh yeah, we try to get into it as much as we can. It's hard because like it's really hard to keep up with what's going on. So like I mean like we have a really high risk tolerance.
Dan's dumping on me.
Maybe. No, but I mean, like, look, like like, all right, here's an example, right? When it went from like, let's say, who knows? Like, let's say pick your like favorite L1 tomorrow just becomes like the thing, right? And like everything's like going off in there. Like, how much time can you really get yourself up to speed on something if you haven't been following it that much? Like, you're definitely just firing in the dark a little bit and like sort of doing it. So, I mean, we do that activity, but it's very hard to get like a feel for like, all right, like this has value and this doesn't.
What's the general playbook? You buy the like Uniswap equivalent, you buy the Aave equivalent, and you buy the dog coins.
yeah, we kind of like this is terrible, but like we kind of let the market like tell us, right? So we just like look, like we scan the board and we're like, all right, these things have volume that's trading, these things like are going up. That's probably where the market's going to key in on. And like we just try to be like, all right, hopefully we don't get rugged, and like that's pretty much all you can do. I mean, like, and you do, like it happens. Like once in a while, you're just gonna like buy one that like zeroes you, but you hope that like the EV of the rest of them like sort of makes up for the whole thing.
Did anyone get caught in the most unprofessional rug I've ever seen? It was the Avalanche rug. Was it a dog coin? Maybe it was called like Husky or something. Or some. Who knows? I can't remember what it's called. It was like fucking. They didn't even let it go for more than like 4 hours or something. Like 6 hours later, it rugged. That's very unprofessional. If you're gonna do a rug pull, you gotta play it out. You've got to like paint a chart. You got to paint it up. And look, you'll get more money with your rug if you do it this way. 6 hours. That's fucking pathetic. Like you're a disgrace to the rug pull community.
You know what I like about like the JPEG movement though? Like you really don't need to rug people, right? Like worst case scenario, you just like put out like a really shitty NFT, right? Like it's such little work to like go between like being a criminal and just like being like terrible. Like you just like make them, right? Like just like send them out there. Like there's really, you can't get rugged like in that scenario.
How much do you reckon we make if we do an up only NFT series? Just like out of interest. We'll edit this part out. We're not live.
Yeah, tell us how much.
How much would you buy?
We got nothing on that. Just crickets.
Yeah.
I feel like
but I just got a DM from him saying like discount.
I feel like I need to mildly protect though the the Husky people, I think they are okay. It was Canis or something like that. It was a different coin that had a 6-hour rug. So, we don't want to hate on the Huskies. I think that was the OG Avalanche, whatever. I think what we really need to pay attention to here is like just how insane some of these are. Like if you go to the Avalanche ecosystem, it's always a little dangerous when you're like 100 IQ like me and you're buying this stuff and somebody's up like 500% since they were early and you're just like, oh, please let me double my money, sir. And then you like somewhere around here, you get word that like, Alameda just approved all of their tokens. And then like, there's just this turbo down candle. Lose all your money. And it's like, I can't believe I lost money on this. How dare you, sir? That's my very technical drawing of what happened. Today somebody sold $3 million of this token in one transaction. And it was like a 25% slippage. So they seem to really be caring about what was happening on there.
Look, some people get off on that. Some people enjoy it. They're like, I want to make a dent on the chart. It's not about the money. It's about sending a message.
It's about the splash.
I did that to Salt in January 2018. It was phenomenally satisfactory.
Wait, what did you dump?
Salt at the market.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
That was the one that got tripped up with the SEC, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So Jason, you obviously been playing in the Avalanche ecosystem because you've bought Avalanche NFTs and decided to make it your metaversal identity on this podcast.
I'm still working it out because I'm like Sam. I don't get NFTs at all. I'm still trying to learn. As you know, Kobe.
Yeah. Tell the story.
I kind of joke because it's like you told me it's like better when people don't know the owner of the NFT and it's already rugged. So I want to have
Please say it's so good. Can I tell it? Can I read your message?
What's better? It's better to have a story, I guess. So Shardy apparently created a whole bunch of pixel dicks and was I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I didn't know who Shardy was. And in this one chat that we're both in, it's I'm like, who the fuck is this Shardy guy? And I check his Twitter and apparently there's some mystery behind Shardy. And I don't know anything about NFTs except cash flowing NFTs for another startup. But I saw this and someone said it was pretty rare and it was the number one mint. And so I was like, I'll buy it.
Wait, you said it's rare. Didn't you say the name of this was Pixel Dicks? Well, I can't say that too loud. My whole family's in the house.
I was like, hey Kobe, was this a good purchase? And he's like, nah, mate. And I was like, wait. And I gave him a whole thesis. And this I was I want to say 3 or 4 beers deep. And I was giving this whole thesis. And I was like, dick drawings is cultural, it's universal, it's hyper masculine. People with money will fucking love it. They'll see value in it. And was giving this whole universal humankind thesis. And he's like, no, mate, there's no audience for it. And I was like, what? And then he told me the metrics behind it. And I was like, oh wait, that makes total sense. And so when I saw AVEX pumps and to the points that you were saying earlier, Dan, when you see liquidity flowing into an asset, you're like, oh, there's actually a buy side. That's cool. And then you start looking at things that make sense and you and have solutions there. But yeah.
My favorite part of this is you hit me up, you sent me this dick NFT, and then I was like, are you joking? And you were like, I'm going to read the messages out because they're amazing. You said, dick art is historical, universal, and memetic. It transcends culture. Then you sent me 6 different links to dick drawings and a Google search for dick drawing culture. One was the sociological origins of drawing dicks in video games. One was early cave drawings, Revel putting dicks on stuff. Another one was a psychoanalyst explains why men draw dicks on everything. The next one was a brief guide to the not safe for work history of penis art. And then you said, the thing is, Whether or not it's skill is a whole other discussion. Each generation, this conversation happens around some new movement in art, and those items usually become culturally significant over time. I'm not an art connoisseur, and the odds are this was a bad investment. But it's a bad investment until it's a phenomenal investment in my mind. And then you sent me screenshots of chats with other people where you were talking about dicks, and I just said, I'm not bullish on your crypto penis despite your thesis.
I feel like every time you're trying to convince yourself to buy something that's extremely stupid but might work, you just call it memetic. And you're like, dude, don't worry about it. It's memetic.
Well, like to Dan's earlier point, like you can create a total shitcoin and it can accrue value somehow, like through very obvious, like fundamental sound ways. But like other ways, like crypto is inherently cultural. So like if you find something that's potentially like memetic or cultural, then it can potentially become crypto. So that seems very meta, but it also sounds dumb. But like, there you go.
And they went to 0, yeah?
Oh, I haven't checked. I just don't want to check for a few years.
Long-term investor.
Oh God! But so then you went to Avalanche and you bought this fucking ape thing.
Apparently, that's a yes.
All right, and Jim, what about you? Have you been playing in other ecosystems, or do you just trade Bitcoin, Ethereum, or do you like go deep and like buy Joe, which is like a trade?
No, I don't touch that shit. But I'm really interested in the NFT whole movement thing. Really, I'm sort of watching from the sidelines, just waiting, because I kind of get the sense there's going to be some good bargains to snap up over the next couple of weeks, hopefully.
Probably. I've been buying, so it's probably.
I just think the valuations on some of this stuff's just ludicrous. Like I think crypto people are so detached from like valuations and stuff that I think a lot of this stuff's just ridiculous, to be honest. But
I think it's incredibly valuable over a long time. Sure, a lot of things will go to zero, but you're going to have applications for NFTs that span different asset classes. And that could be as simple as trading cards to real estate loans. You know? So
I kind of get the sense it will act similarly to how altcoins tend to the money tends to obviously gravitate towards the majors. And I kind of get the sense NFTs will do that too, where a lot of the shit stuff, the money will go to the premium stuff, is my sort of thinking.
So you mean like there'll be new NFT projects, they'll like bubble up, flip them, volume will dry up, they'll go to zero.
Yeah, and then that money will, go into your Fidenders and punks and inflate those more, and there'll be quite a disparity between the shit and the good stuff.
What about dinos? Is that a store value?
Oh, you know what?
Are you not a member of Dino DAO? Have we got any Dino DAO
I looked
members?
at them on my stream the other day and I was quite tempted, to be honest.
Well, that's because Dino DAO is the elite upper echelon of crypto society.
They're almost so shit that I'm kind of like, I kind of want one.
Look, in the metaverse, what if you want to be a dinosaur? There's only 100 of them.
Yeah. There was one I was looking at, it was like 40 ETH. It's probably like doubled now, isn't it?
Yeah. What I like about them is the thesis is simple. One, it looks stupid. And two, if you want to make a full set of like that art blocks, like whatever, then you've got to get a dino, and there's only 100 of them.
Kobe's a full community member. He's got his dino in his Twitter banner and everything.
Yeah.
Dan,
Look how happy he is. His tail looks a little bit like a penis, but
So, Kobe,
still less to like.
why is that dino more valuable than a pixel dick? Just so I can like understand and learn, in this new space.
I don't know. I just did what Bob Laxative told me to do. Bob Laxative said, I've got one, 3AC have got one, Vincent's got one, and Von Mises got one. So I was like,
Ledger
all right,
doesn't have one.
I'll fucking buy one then. It's a dinosaur, isn't it? It's stupid.
I was watching a TV show that night, and I was like, do I get up and go spend $100,000 on a dino, or do I keep watching this TV show? And that was about a $300,000 mistake to not.
Well, wait.
At the same time, my wife would have been like, what are you doing? We're like, just buy nothing. I'm just going to sit here.
Ledger, can I ask you a question about your marital relationship?
Sure.
Thanks. Do you ever discuss
No.
nothing?
if I do, I have to go sell like half my portfolio because it'll be a top. Like if I'm like,
Oh, so when you talk to her about it, it means it's topping because you're like, you've built up the confidence to say, look how I did.
yeah, it means it's over. So now the only time to talk about it is to be like, okay, we took this money out. It's in the bank and it's like no longer exposed to crypto. That's real. Everything else is just fake internet money.
All right, so you're never like, I just spent like, 150K on a pixel.
No, that would be problematic.
All right, okay. I just needed to know.
One time I showed her my rare me bit and she was not impressed.
Didn't you like 100x on your rare me bit?
Yeah, she didn't care. Didn't matter.
She just called you an idiot.
Yeah, she was like, "What do you do with these?"
Can we do an episode one time where it's just me, you, and your wife hanging out? Like,
no, I'll quit.
You should just go through his collection.
No,
with her.
that would be amazing. All right. Does anyone else have partners that they talk to about their investment theses in the vaporware that we've made an industry?
I trade the 30-second chart and you think I've got a girlfriend.
Yeah, fair point, mate. Fair point.
Cry.
I talk to my girlfriend a lot about the market, and every day she does the opposite of what I do, and she seems to make money. So,
does she have a crypto Twitter account or a Telegram account?
Oh no, she just has a Square Crypto or Cash App. She arbs Cash App and the.
Oh god. All right, I lost where we were. We're talking about Avalanche ecosystems. All right, yeah. Jim doesn't play in them. He just trades Bitcoin on the 30-second chart. Cool. The other thing I want to talk about is dog money. Dog money is a big topic these days because everyone's fractionalizing their NFTs into pixel fractions and making hundreds of millions of dollars and shit. And like, there's just so much dog money now. Like, there's obviously the OG Dogecoin from like fucking 2013 or whenever it was. Then you got Shiba. I don't know what that does, but that's worth like $4.5 billion or something, which seems like that doesn't make sense to me. But sure. Then there's another one on ETH. I can't remember its name, worth like 400 million, which is just another dog coin. Then Path fractionalized his NFT from the original sale. Like the photographer of the original dog did a series of photos. He bought one and he fractionalized it. And then obviously Pleaser DAO today fractionalized the like actual photo, this one on the screen, at the top of the screen. And they raised like what, $45-50 million.
Yeah.
So this like NFT is now valued at like $250 million or something. Yeah. Does this make sense to anyone? Does anyone explain this?
Literally goes over my head. I just can't even fathom it, honestly.
So this picture has a $250 million market cap.
Yeah, because they sold 20% of it for like 50 million or some shit.
Dan, what are your thoughts?
This is all just like goes in the bucket of like, you can't look at this stuff and be like, oh, I'm gonna get really bearish here. Like, it's just like there's just too much money, right? Like there's just like that's the problem.
What are your thoughts on the NFT market and Jay Powell's dovishness the last week or two or whatever, saying that no rate increase for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I'm super, super, super hesitant that they're going to do anything to like slow this in any capacity. Like they'll talk about it, but like I don't think nobody wants to do it, right? Like nobody wants to be that person who like comes in and like slows things and like ends an era of just unlimited sort of like free money. So I don't think that's going to happen. And I don't think that's going to happen for a while. I don't know what will be the turning factor to make that happen. Like I'm not like a macro sort of like policy guy. I just like don't any indication I've gotten from people who are much smarter on that front is that it's business as usual for at least the next 6 months, which means that this is just going to like, look, you're going to get weirder and weirder things that are going to happen because there's just huge sums of money moving through the system, and it's going to find its way into weird corners, right? Like if you think about like all of crypto, like think about like all of what NFTs are worth, right? It's like still not that much money in the global scale, right? Like it's like, yes, it seems like absurd, but if you're like, all right, like we're going to inject $2 trillion of liquidity into the system, and like, oh, like a bunch of like random JPEGs are going to be worth like $20 billion, like they'd be like, oh, like that's not the craziest thing in the world, right? That's a very small portion of all that money, and like it just happens to find itself in weirder pieces of the market, like as time goes on. I think the big problem is going to be, all right, does that money start to like bleed into the real world, right? Because that's like when you have problems. Like people like messing around on the internet, like trading JPEGs is like largely a victimless sort of world, in the sense that like nobody's like really creating problems in their lives, like with this sort of thing. What you have problems in your lives is like if certain like real world assets suddenly start becoming like out of reach for like large swaths of the population, right? Like if housing triples, like now you have a problem. So I don't think we're in that sort of domain of like where things would like sort of be forced. But yeah, this is going to be like just a side effect of like the world and the policy we live in probably for a while. And like I don't think it's going to get any less weird. I really think the money, like I said, I think it just keeps pushing in. Like there's more trying to get in than there's not. So it's going to find its way to weirder stuff.
I don't like that. I mean, I think you're right, but I don't like it, what it means for the next 6 months of my life. I don't want to live those 6 months. Like I'd like to sleep through them and then just afterwards be like, didn't happen. It's got, if it gets weirder and weirder, because I have to cope. I cope a lot. I'm from the old school of crypto where what we were taught was that everything is a scam and it goes up and you got to flip it and you can't be a believer. And as soon as it gets weird, get the fuck out, because that's it. As soon as it's weird, you got to bail. And that like meant you survived through 2012 to 2017, 2018, and 2019 was the first sort of time where being a believer was really rewarded, I think. It was like people that were believers from 2018, 2019, they fucking killed it. And maybe that'll sustain. Maybe that'll be like a thing that like into the future believers like now outperform, because people have started innovating, people have started to build real shit, and everything's not just a fucking scam now. And like Bitcoin believers obviously were highly rewarded, and ETH holders as well. But if we're in the next 6 months, I got to believe in stupid shit and I got to endure things getting weirder and weirder. All my internal programming is going to be like, fucking sell everything, fucking sell everything, fucking sell everything. I'm going to have to time lock all my assets. Can I do that? Can I put everything into time lock or some shit?
You got to do the coma thing.
You could just take like some percentage to cash every week, whether it's 1%, 5%, 10%.
I think
that sounds like sensible. That sounds like a financial plan.
I don't think Kobe's ego of wanting to call the Pico top is going to fit with like DCA out, right? He's going to steadily sell. He's the person that wants to make that candle that he was talking about, you know?
Yeah. I maybe just need to go on holiday for a while and just like not play.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to play, right? Like that's the other thing. Like I've this is like I probably have made the least money of anybody in this chat, like on NFTs. Like, and there's guys here that like that's all they fucking
on
do
NFTs
now.
Qualifier was
it was relevant. No, like I don't have time, right? Like, and I said this because like a couple of the junior guys on the desk are like, they're really in it, and I'm like, I'm so happy for them running with it and like killing it and all that jazz. And like, we don't do it at the firm because it's just like, it's a weird asset to trade because it's like, it just like doesn't really fit. And so everybody's just doing it really in a personal capacity. And like, I just don't have time, right? Like I can't, like, I'm so busy with the existing sort of stuff running and like family obligations and whatnot that like I can't be like scheduling 25 NFT drops over the course of like a week to like, and I get that I'm like, I know, right? I'm like in my head, I'm like, if I'm doing this activity, I will absolutely make money. But at some point you're like, all right, like I'm okay. Just like I don't have to know everything or do everything. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just like I'm getting old, but I'm just like, that's like, all right, that's fine. Like that's entirely okay.
you're getting to that point in life where you're just finding out the important things, and family and friends are one of them. And you can
True.
Yeah,
and I think like right, that definitely comes with time too. But I watch it as like an observer, and I'm like, you like see it, and you're like, I know if I do that activity, and like you get like sort of that FOMO, but it like sort of fades a little bit with time, I think, or maybe like I said, it's just like a function of getting older, where you're like, look, like I said the same thing when the guys went to Miami for like the conference, and I was like, I can't go. Like I have a young kid. Like there's no way like that's gonna like fly. I was like, I know you guys are gonna have a great time, and like I would want to go, and like I understand like, but I don't really have FOMO from it because I'm like, it's just not possible anymore. Like that's just like the reality of like sort of how the whole thing's gone. So I don't know. Maybe like getting.
Yeah, it does sound like you're getting old. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. I feel old.
When you're in crypto, you age like 3 times as fast. It's like that planet in Interstellar in inverse, where it's like if you're in crypto, it goes like oh, I've been in 10 years, I'm like 50 now. Fuck.
Yeah, I just hit my 4-year anniversary on like crypto Twitter, and I just was thinking like it seems like so much longer than 4 years.
Yeah.
Just when COVID started, it feels like it's been a decade.
It really does.
Yeah, that was like a year and a half.
Not that much time.
I made my crypto Twitter account I made the Kobe account in 2013.
Yeah,
sometimes I see tweets. Yeah, sometimes I see tweets that I posted in like 2013, 2014 or whatever. I don't remember them, and they've got like 3 likes, and I'm like, was this me? Like, did I write that? I don't remember writing that at all. What was I doing? But yeah, now I'm old as fuck. So, but I still get FOMO, and I still FOMO into NFTs. And I'm really bad at it. So, whatever.
Can I just say one more thing about the NFT thing that I'm most intrigued about is sort of, I think people are underestimating like the bridge between the traditional art world and the sort of digitalized art world that's happening. And I think that's going to bring in significant money, which is why I'm sort of more interested in trying to find the more niche art stuff as opposed to like these like profile picture type crap that I think they're going to end up getting liquidated in order to and flow into the really good stuff. But I think you're more likely to see some like traditional artists enter the scene, like your Damien Hirst, who's already done it and stuff. I think that's really compelling and interesting. I almost think it's bigger than crypto, and I think as crypto nerds are like turning it into an extension of the crypto market when actually it could be its own entity eventually.
Does that mean you're bullish ETH?
That's a great question.
Don't alienate your community now, mate.
I know.
Is ETH going to be the place where that occurs long term?
Exactly. It's interesting. You know what? I've not really thought about that as much. Maybe I am bullish ETH. Fuck.
I think there's 2 things. There's like the existing art world moving onto Ethereum, and then there's the creation of sort of crypto culture and the art of crypto culture. And like every cultural movement has its own leading artist and its own art style and stuff like that. And yeah, like sure, like Hearst will move on, and these old boomer artists might move on and like try and monetize on a new platform, like basically using the internet for the first time when artists move on to Instagram and shit. But you'll also have these like breakout artists who were part of this sort of digital art movement and this NFT movement that might become the most valuable artists overall because you're capturing the cultural movement or the moment that as it happens. And if crypto does go on to be like the, foundation of the economic system, then capturing the cultural moment is therefore like a very good investment. And also the people that own those things from those times probably don't want to sell them so much because the clout is more important than the money, because they all got rich anyway because they were all owned, Solana or whatever.
I'd expect some large galleries to start curating on, maybe on OpenSea or whatever, maybe doing sort of interactive exhibitions and whatnot, your Saatchi galleries of the world and stuff. I think the next sort of 5 years is going to be really, really quite exciting actually for the NFTs.
I think the ones that move on that don't make as much sense is when you're taking physical art and you just like scan it and turn it into an NFT. That's not
Just stick it in your scanner.
Yeah.
like that's less interesting to me. But like Hearst was relatively interesting because they're actually forcing people to choose: do they want the digital version or the physical version? The physical versions are all like locked in a vault or something, and they're going to destroy them if they choose the digital version. So like that's just a fun thought experiment to figure out what's more valuable, the physical or the digital. And then the other stuff that I think makes sense is when it's digital only and it's either interactive or programmatic or, you know, generative or whatever. There's obviously a lot of experiments there that make sense and can be really interesting. And that stuff to me definitely makes sense for why like galleries would want to install something where, you know, you go and you look at stuff that's digital first.
All right, I got a question. If we're in this sort of gigantic cultural movement and this is, you know, the Industrial Revolution again, but at the beginning, financial and digital, what is the Mona Lisa? What NFT that currently exists is the Mona Lisa of the future? Is it like that CryptoPunk with all the traits that Danny or whatever owns? Is it a Beeple? Is it the hash mask that I've got called Girlfriend?
I think it's the punk that you just mentioned.
Yeah, one of the super.
I think
the
you know, because
ultra
art obviously defines eras and it's culturally significant, and I think punks kind of define that the start. You know, they're so significant culturally that I think they're the ones to hold for sure. I almost even I'd question Fidenza's value personally. I think it's probably overvalued, whereas punks are probably undervalued right now. In my
Why?
Jason, what do you reckon? Oh, yeah, we're going with the why. Because Ledger's just bought a load of Fidenzas and he don't like this fudding of his bags. So he's hoping that you've got a really bad follow up to this question.
I have not bought a load.
I'm actually really intrigued by what you said, Jim. I'm really interested to learn from you about why you think punks are undervalued. Follow-up question, Kobe, what qualities of the Mona Lisa make it like the pico top of like art culture? Jim first.
So you want me to elaborate on why I think punks are undervalued, yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
Because like for me, like art's defined by eras and styles. You know, you've got your sort of you went from photorealism to impressionism to abstraction to contemporary, and I just feel like it marks the new era in art and digitalized art, and I think they're significant on that level, which is why I think they're undervalued, just for their cultural significance. You know, they're not necessarily artistically compelling, but the actual, you know, you know what I'm trying to say.
Jim, I think you've just doxed yourself as like an art auctioneer. Can you do like an auction voice of like, we've got lot number 75?
No, I am a bit of an art nerd, actually. That's why I'm quite intrigued by this whole space.
What was your question for me, Jason?
Why is the Mona Lisa the pico top of like cultural art representation, I guess?
All right, name like 5 famous pieces of art.
Mona Lisa, yeah, okay.
There's like Mona Lisa and there's the fucking Scream thing and the Starry Night and then like what else? The roof of the Sistine Chapel. What's that called?
But there are things that sell for a whole lot of money, like one of ones, if you will, in the real world. That, you know, you just hear
one of ones.
like,
Oh god.
Again, like, here's the question: like, why is the Mona Lisa so special? And that's why I was asking Jim, like, why is it so special? Like, it's a portrait, and Jim was saying it's a specific portrait in a specific style in a specific point in history, confluencing between different like artistic movements, right? And it's representative of something.
I think, especially in today's day and age, because obviously it's about profiteering, and you know, art's almost been turned into some capitalist sort of movement as opposed to an artistic one. And I think almost marketing itself is an art form now. That, you know, and I think
it's just money laundering, man.
Yeah, it is in a way, but you know, with a bit more culture. But what am I trying to say? Yeah, I think punks, you know, they're just so marketable in that sense, you know.
I'd like to take a moment to apologize to any listeners that actually know anything about art, because We've really butchered it for you.
Dan, what do you think about the role that on-chain activity via NFTs is playing in terms of like platform scalability, like demand for Solana or layer 2s and all that stuff?
Oh, I guess it's your like sort of question, like where's this stuff going to live? Like,
Yeah, where's it
what's,
gonna?
like,
Yeah, where's it gonna live? Or like, do you think this has been a bullish impact for both Ethereum and Solana, or more one than the other?
Yeah, so I've said this a bunch of times, and I feel like like people either like they don't listen to me or they like sort of think I'm like anti-ETH, but like, or I kind of don't even really care. But like the main thesis is like, look, like Solana has one spillover because ETH is being successful, right? So like you can be bullish on both of them like going forward, but like the reality is like at some dollar value of transaction costs, like marginal utility of things happening on ETH becomes not possible, right? Like take it to an extreme, right? If you're paying $5,000 mint, or even more than that, like at certain time, like certain things that are like people want to do this, right? And like a lot of people want to do this activity, and like you're going to price out large swaths of people at certain point at that like sort of fee level, right? That being said, there's a lot of very wealthy people that still exist in ETH that will continue doing that activity, and like that will remain. So like you get bullish. I think of it as like the second order effect of like ETH being successful is that Solana gets successful or like Avalanche gets successful, right? It's the natural like spillover of a ton of people pushing through a tiny door. Now, like the big looming question in all this is like, do the L2s just cannibalize that, or does it all just spill over onto the other chains? I'm a buyer of it spilling over to the other chains. This is like where like people like have the big fight, right? This is like where people are like, no, it'll only ever like sort of like stay on ETH and it'll all just be like L2s. And like, I don't know. I'm not necessarily sold on that just because we're seeing flight to other stuff, like when there's like demand for block space like coming in. So I just like, and like it's sort of the same argument people had with Bitcoin and ETH like way back in the early days, just obviously a little differently, where they were like, well, everything could just happen on Bitcoin. Like we'll just like do it on Bitcoin. And like that just doesn't work, right? Like we've seen this sort of play out before where it expands horizontally. Like that's just like sort of how the asset class, at least of the last 2 years, has like really sort of showed. So I think that trend will continue. So in terms of like platform, like I think they're both going to be very successful, and I think like they're intertwined sort of in that relationship going forward. Obviously, like it's worse. It goes the other way, really negative too, right? If nobody wants to use this stuff, well, then nobody wants to use any of the space on Solana for sure, and they want to use even less of the space on Ether, right? So like it bites you both ways, sort of on that side. But if you're a buyer that like net demand for block space and activity is in aggregate going up over time, then yeah, you want to be long both. Like you want to like sort of think that that's like the direction it's going to go. But the higher value stuff dollar wise is definitely going to probably consist on ETH, just because like you get that security, but you also like all the high dollar stuff already exists there, you know? Like it's the older sort of one accruing value. No. So that's what I sort of think about the whole thing. But like, look, certain processes, like I don't want to say broke because people get mad about that, but like it's just like the experience is shitty sometimes, like trying to do certain stuff, and like that is like if you're new to the industry and you're coming in, like that is a big headache. Like people definitely like bump up against, and I think that's something we just, as a community of people, like try to dismiss, but it very much has been like my real world dealing of like bringing people into this ecosystem who don't like normally do it, that have like other jobs and things. And I'm like, oh, go on MetaMask and like do this stuff. And like next thing I know, I'm like trying to cancel transactions for them, or they're like, oh, I don't have enough gas to like pay for this thing. And like stuff like that is like a hurdle. So that also like pushes people to other chains at like certain times.
I think if you're not spending like $1,000, even the price of a send is just too much. Because if you spend $100 or you're trying to send somebody $100, it might cost $12, $15 to send it. It just makes no sense. And I think there's this kind of rational part of our brain that says, okay, a credit card transaction, one, we don't even eat that, right, as a customer, whereas you see it on an ETH transaction. But a credit card transaction, about 3% gets lost in the system. And I kind of view that as a like worst case scenario is what it should be. Like, you shouldn't really be spending more than 3% of a transaction to make it on a blockchain. And and
how much of that 3% is fraud, right? Like how much of that is like baked into the fact that it like has to, it exists in a system that doesn't have finality of settlement that quickly, right? So like you can skip that.
Yeah, so it should be even less. It should be like, that's what appeals to me about going, like, you know, we've been making fun of AVAX, but it's EVM compatible, and I spend like 40 cents to make transactions there. That makes a lot more sense just from a rational human perspective. And honestly, when I talk to somebody and say they've got $5,000 or $10,000 to roll with, and that's a lot of money in the real world, they can't do it on Ethereum. You legit cannot have a $5,000 bankroll and operate on Ethereum.
Dan, what if the value is at the application layer, like for real world applications, instead of just like sloshing liquidity between chains? Like, what does that look like?
Are you talking about like what can sort of like be natively supported on one versus the other?
Like, so outside of the crypto universe, right? Like we're like, honestly, like truly, like full transparency, we're all just degenerates, like transferring liquidity back and forth and profiting here and there. So like, once this technology actually gets like real usage from the real world, from like institutions, from whatever, doing like, you know, institutional products, whatever, like, what does that look like from all this, like all these perspectives? Like, where does the value go? Like, is it application, or is it protocol, or layer 2, ETH, whatever?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, like, I think like the biggest winners are going to be like the applications that like tap into it first, right? And like, if you put a gun to my head and you're like, where does this like sort of like work out first? It's probably look here. So you have like this weird world, right, where the risk-free lending rate, and risk-free in like air quotes because there's a lot of like weird risks associated, but like the baseline rate that exists like inside crypto is an order of magnitude higher than the rest of the world, right? And the rest of the world has a ton of money in comparison to like the crypto world. And that's not going to exist forever, right? Like that is going to get arbed away. And like, you're going to see those pools of capital come in. Like, that's just like, they'll find that way. And like, it's basically gapped right now because of like compliance and like regulatory concerns, but they'll figure out a way. Like, there's just too much money that like people won't do this. So like my natural inclination is like those supporting protocols that are going to be able to like, look, like whether it's like the governance tokens for the things that work for it, or it's the chains that it like sit on top of, like that's where the most value will accrue as the real world starts to bridge into this, because that's like the biggest use case that I see happening in a short term that's like easily definable. So like, I don't know if that completely answers your question, but like that's like sort of where, and I think it will be on the tokens that are primarily providing that service, and then secondary to that will be the underlying network that it sits on, but probably the base layer. So it'd be like Aave compound ETH, right? Like that would be like that ratio of like sort of how that like trickles down. That being said, like those assets are extremely volatile and risky from a regulatory side. So like it's going to take time, but like if that shift occurs, that would be sort of how I see it like playing out.
Do you think L2s should have a token?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I don't know. This is gonna be like a big leap, but I think like if you're gonna have an L2 that like wins, I think it'll have a token. And I think
okay. So you need one defensively because someone will copy paste and add a token.
Exactly. And like that just will happen. And then that begs the question of, is an L2 with a token better than an L1 with a token, right? And like this is like where I know Emin from AVAX is like always making this argument, right, about there's no real difference between the two. And I think that we're going to see probably the reality of that play. I think it will be fine. Like, I think it will like still
between what two? L1 and L2?
Like what's like an L2 on ETH with its own native token versus say AVAX? Like that's like sort of his argument. Like why is one necessarily better than the other? And like you can be like, well, it has finality that's like tied back to like the ETH chain. And he's like, well, it doesn't really matter because your like native token matters more sort of in the security model of the whole thing. Obviously, it's very dependent on like how those things are like built too. But so that's the core thesis that like he's always been like pushing.
So it's kind of measuring like the cliff of where does the security model do good enough, right? Like if it's good enough, then you can have a certain type of application there, a certain type of activity there.
Right.
You might not be able to settle for the BSC security model, but you could settle for the Polygon one or the Avalanche one.
Yeah, like if Ethereum can settle like 100 billion in like real world yielding assets and like AVAX can't, where's the value go? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so if you're going to...
I think
go ahead.
It also just like starts to change like the narrative, right? Like if you have an L2 that's suspend disbelief is worth 20 times what ETH is worth, like is it really the L2? Like no, right? Like then that's the network. And then I don't know, like that's an extreme sort of like taking it in that direction. But like you have to like think about that in terms of like if that's where all the activity has and that's like where all the value is, like all the assets are bridged or put on there, then like how does that matter? So again, like I'm not technically competent enough to like discuss the inner workings of that, but I think about like the economic like rationales of like tokens, something like that. But like at bare minimum, like the L2s are going to have tokens.
What do you think about the liquidity fragmentation between all this?
I think it'll be fine, just because the large desks are so big and they like smush everything together now. Arbitrum
withdraws like what, a week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get on instantly, but it takes a week to get off right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a downside versus like Avalanche, where you can just bridge back instantly, and you know, you keep that. You don't go like, I want to do something. Oh God, I've got to plan a week in advance.
Yeah, but realistically, I think right now most or all bridges are like quite centralized or require a lot. They're very low capital efficiency because they need liquidity on both sides all the time or something like that. There's sacrifices.
I gotta think like exchanges will probably offer some way of bridging in and out that like they just like pick a fee for like you doing it instantly too, right? Like somebody's like that's a market right there, right? Like there's like a very good opportunity there for somebody to make some money to like be like, hey, how much to do it now, and like take some credit risk on it.
FTX already does, like if you're withdrawing Ethereum on FTX US, it'll say like, do you want to do Ethereum on Solana or Ethereum on ETH, and like they're doing it for you because they've got pools of capital in both places. So like one way to bridge is just sending from your wallet to the exchange and then back out. Obviously centralized.
Yeah, we do the same thing to swap stablecoins.
Yeah.
That's like an application layer example of like where the value accrues, because FTX is worth what, 16 billion? Something crazy.
Yeah, a little bit more than that, I think. Yeah, but yeah.
I mean, ideally, an automated system that goes through something completely decentralized like Curve would be more fun. If you get good rates and good speed out of it, because you just bottlenecks.
I had a multi curve swap the other day, and it was fucking terrible experience. Like I swapped like a bunch of money. The curve interface broke, so it just was like didn't say anything. It was like done. It was like nothing there. I looked at MetaMask, the money was gone. The money was not in MetaMask. And I didn't do a test transaction or anything. I just fucking did the whole thing. And I was like, all right. And I messaged my friend who works at Curve, and I was like, what's going on? And he was like, oh, you just need to refresh the page, and then in 8 minutes it'll send you an NFT, and then you just need to get the money from the NFT by like completing the transaction. And I was like, what? Why'd you send me my money in a fucking NFT? Just fucking give me my money back. Why does it have to take 8 minutes? I understand now. It's like something to do with Chainlink and how Synthetics does like anti-front running stuff. But it was a terrible experience. I did not like it. It was not the future of finance. I had a very bad time.
I think go ahead.
You've been doing this for like going on 9-10 years, right? Forever. And like you're like confused, and you have to like DM somebody in support that you happen to like be able to get to. Like think about like somebody that like stumbles upon this, like who's 3 months into crypto, and like there's just like they're gonna be so baffled and probably give up.
I looked at my Etherscan, and like all the money had gone to like this address that was called Black Hole, and I was like,
yes.
Good name for it.
It was not enjoyable. I didn't like it. Twitter has just announced that you can put a Bitcoin and ETH address in your profile now.
Boy, fun. Both in ETH address too?
Yeah. ETH address, yeah. Jack's caved to the Vitalik lobby.
I mean, is there anyone in the world who's like making the weirdest business decision than Square not supporting stablecoins natively?
And it's so much of like, it's a large percentage of their revenue already with Bitcoin.
It's so weird. Like I don't know. Like as a business decision, you could be like, this is just does not make sense.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like it's almost like they owe it to their shareholders to support more, don't they? I mean, they're just leaving massive amounts of money on the table, and part of their mandate is to like return value to their shareholders. So
I mean, somebody's gonna make a killing being the bank that finally lets you like natively interface stablecoins, and they're like uniquely positioned to do it, and they refuse to.
Yeah, that is quite interesting. But is it them, or is it just like some other thing? Like he's building like a Bitcoin DEX.
No, but it's those things in the background, right? Like that's like the thing is like they're ideologically, or at least it seems to be ideologically driven versus like business. I don't know. It's odd as like a bystander watching it.
What would happen on a Bitcoin DEX? You just trade Bitcoins for other Bitcoins.
I don't know. I think I said you can only sell altcoins for Bitcoin. That's the only thing you can do.
So,
Well, I look forward to it. Maybe it'll be cool.
last week we talked to Sam Tabasco, and we talked a little bit about options, and he said options are not very important yet for crypto. And I wanted to ask y'all, one, do you trade options? Is it part of your book or portfolio? And two, like, how important do you think it is in the market? And three, Kobe, what pants are you wearing? Kobe, move your chair.
I got like some shiny green, like fucking. Wait, where am I?
Those are very good.
There you go, mate. They're shiny.
Those are.
I'll be back in a moment.
Excellent. So who wants to talk about options first?
So we do trade options. So we have a dedicated head that just trades vol. And I agree that it's not important. Like, look, it's like it's just like, it makes money. Like, it makes sense to do as a business, but like at no point am I like, what is like going on in the market? And then I go look at like what the vol market's doing. It's just like, it's not relevant yet. It's too small.
Yeah. So you don't think it's like impacting where the price of Bitcoin is at any given time?
No.
Jason and Jim, are y'all options traders?
I've been interviewing an options trader to potentially bring on, and Dan just maybe said I shouldn't hire him. No. He'll justify like his head, like he'll make money, but like he like won't have insight into what the market's gonna do. Like, there's money there.
Jim?
Yeah, no, it's a bit up my pay grade. I'm sort of trying to learn a bit more about the options flow, but I'm definitely not knowledgeable enough to speak on it yet.
Dan, is part of why you think it's important to have that person in your shop or have that knowledge if you're an individual trader is because you think that it will become more important? Like, do you think that's inevitable, or do you think crypto markets can always kind of exist without that element of derivatives?
No, I mean, it's optionality on optionality, right? So like what will likely happen, and like I don't know who said this first, but like it's like the right answer is like eventually there'll be an ETF, and the options on the ETF are we're gonna do all this trade. It's like it just, look, I like Deribit, we use it, it's a ton, like it matters. There's not enough organic takers of liquidity on it that the market has been able to like grow big enough, and I think you will see that. I mean, look, I'm not going to say guarantee, but the closest thing you have to a guarantee is that like there's suddenly an entire world of people that trade equity options that now can suddenly trade crypto options backdoored through the ETF.
Yeah. Well, also FTX US purchased LedgerX, which has zero volume. I learned this the other day. The day before they announced this acquisition, I sent some Ethereum to LedgerX because I wanted to buy Ethereum options, and Kobe was like, "You're an idiot. You're just buying calls at resistance," which was true. I just got lucky, except for the fact that like even 2 or 3 ETH of premium, you had to sweep the ask across every contract that they have to get that. Like, there's zero volume, there's zero order flow. So I'm hoping that FTX will help fix that, because that's really the only place that an American retail participant can participate in the options market, because it's quite difficult for Deribit unless you're an institution, right?
Do you have anything to do with the company LedgerX? Is it a coincidence that you're both called Ledger, or are you just shilling your own bag?
Yeah, I just secretly own 100% of that, so I just cashed out.
That was good.
Yeah,
congrats.
Yeah, thanks. No, I think they booted the original founders.
Paul and Jitaka. Yeah, they're at a pretty public fight with the
SEC. And,
CTC, but yeah.
Yeah, and the CTO is the CEO of LedgerX now. But that seems like a big deal, in my opinion, for getting Americans involved in the options market in crypto, and putting like the FTX name behind it seems relevant.
How long is it until you reckon that Pfizer and FTX do FTX vaccines in order to like boost adoption within the crypto community?
Get a fee rebate.
I don't know, man. It'd be like the only 2 public companies that have revenue models. Everybody else just lives on growth.
All right, what have we not covered? We spoke about dog money, we spoke about L2, L1, we spoke about the scams on Avalanche. We have spoken about what have I missed?
I have another question on this cross-layer stuff. So what do you think is the importance, anybody who's participating in like having unique products on these different layers or chains versus having like the key brands, you know, the Compound and Aave and Uniswaps, working on all of them? Like, why can't it just be the same, you know, the same organizations on all of them? Or is it better for like independent protocols and organizations on the different layers?
I tend to be a buyer that like you'll just see the major ones on all of them.
Yeah.
And like they'll slowly push out. Like you have a window here where like people are able to like raise and be like the X on Y, and like that works. And like some of those will survive and be okay, but like that door is closing.
Yeah, ultimately, it's like, honestly, like, if crypto's a bit like exchanges, and honestly, just like any other like technological offering, like there's going to be like platform plays of entire like business models across crypto chains. It's going to be crazy, and probably a lot of people won't expect it. But like, if like back to Dan's earlier point where it's like value probably goes to the application, then the base layer. I think that's what you said. I'm sorry if I am.
Yeah, no, that was right.
Okay. Like you're going to need to provide actual, like, I guess, business or just actual value. And like, however you implement that is dependent on the economics of any given chain or any given offering. And so like, that's the bridge from just being crypto, like insulated to crypto and highly speculative to like highly real, right?
What do you think, Kobe or Jim?
After you, Jim.
Yes, I'm not a tech guy. I don't know. I'll tell you what I think ETH might do in the next 30 seconds. But
all right. Tell us, what's the next 30 seconds for ETH?
It's probably going to go down like 30 cents.
It's accurate.
It's like Dan's earlier point about cost of capital was like pretty good. If it's costly to like go back and use a chain, you're going to use another chain. If there's like a MakerDAO on AVAX, you're going to use the MakerDAO on AVAX because it costs 30 cents to port your loan across chains and give it to like someone that needs it and that you get yield from. So like.
Yeah, I was chatting to Sue the other day, and he was basically saying that there are some trades you can do now where it is significantly cheaper just to like go to another chain from ETH, do it, and then bridge back. So is this actually true? Do you just save up gas costs? You save like $1,000. Sue, I don't think you need to be saving $1,000. Maybe that's how you. Oh, holy shit! It actually went down 30 cents. What the fuck?
Nailed it.
He can see the future, but only 30 seconds in front. The worst superpower ever. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see how like Arbitrum and Optimism and all these things play out. Especially Arbitrum. I'm an equity investor, by the way. I'm shilling my own bag. But I see they've got like the EVM compatible basically, so you can just copy paste some shitcoin onto it. It's got its own like dog coin gambling happening on there already. So it's interesting if those ecosystems play out the same way these all layer one ecosystems are playing out, and if they the L2s get valuations that are similar to, you know, because in some ways you can use Solana like a ETH layer 2, right? Like you can just pot over, do some shit, mint some NFTs and bridge back. So like, I don't know if it matters too much what it is technically if the end user experience remains pretty similar. So
I just feel like in all of this, the inevitability seems that the liquidity and bridging and the back and forth is going to be a really important element of all of that to work well.
Yeah. Who knows? Not us. This is not a like a stream for like people that know anything. Like, he can't even hold his laptop up. What's going on? All right,
I hit it. Yeah.
He's just flexing his Kraken shirt.
Oh, this is. I got this when I worked there a lifetime ago.
Oh wow.
It's still
Wait,
here,
how long ago?
I worked there late 2013, early 2014. So.
Oh wow! So you got like a bag of Kraken equity that's like with an potentially upcoming IPO.
I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, the window for like all of these weird offerings and like SPACs is like slowly shutting a little bit. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't have any edge there. I don't know more than anybody else.
Yeah, very, very smart. Good company line. All right, Jim, so can you teach us how to trade the 30-second chart? Like, how did you know? What should I be doing? I want to be able to trade the 30-second chart so that because people always hit you up all the time when you're in crypto and they go, should I buy now? Like, what's it going to do over the next few days? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. Like, when I know, I do something, but I don't always know on demand. You can't ask me like what it's going to do, and I'm like Google for the market. I sometimes know, and I make a bet, and sometimes like 95% of the time I've got no fucking clue. But if I learn the power of predicting 30 seconds in the future, I'll be able to satisfy them by going, no, in the next 30 seconds it's probably going to do this, and they'll go, holy shit, and then I can move on the conversation.
All right,
Wait, Jim, I don't mean to cut you off. I gotta jet, guys.
All right, see you, Dan.
It's been real. Thanks for having me.
Jim, I have the 30-second chart open, and we need you to walk us through what we're about to experience.
Sure. Well, Christ, I'm not really looking myself.
You got a 50% chance of being right.
Yeah, I know. Hang on, let me have a quick look. What are we doing? See, basically, what I use, I think it was called auction market theory. So what I like to do is scalp intraday, sort of back and forth in these value areas before we sort of establish which way we want to break out of value. So it's really hard to explain without showing it, but I basically just kind of try and think like a market maker and target where the liquidity is, because basically they're just moving it back and forth in order to pick up where active participants want to step in and either buy or sell. So, it's about determining when you range band and when you're trending, I suppose. But yeah, I'm just waiting now.
So what happens if if we break out and make new all-time highs in basically ETH's got to move in the next week, right? Or it's got to wait until like end of the year. Like you need a big move in the next week, or you get consolidation till December or so. But if we do make that breakout in the next week,
well, I think I can't see it. It looks almost inevitable that it's going to break out.
All right, so there's some financial advice from Jim.
There's been
just
substantial
viewers, there's no financial advice. Everyone on this show is an idiot.
There's been some substantial sell pressure from multiple exchanges today that's been absorbed heavily on FTX of all exchanges. They've absorbed a lot of spot. So, and we're balancing. We're balancing above yesterday's value area. So basically, I'm just waiting for a break now from like. If we break below 3750, we'll probably get a dip, and if we break above 3800, it's probably going to send. So, and the same with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin just kind of consolidates above 49.2, I see people targeting 52, 56, but it almost seems inevitable that it's going to go all-time highs, in my opinion. I just don't see why it would stall. If it's going to stall, it's going to stall here. It's not going to go a bit higher. So.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. But then if we do make this breakout, what do you do? Because you say you don't like it when it's trending. So do you just do you play games? Like what do you do?
Well, I've just started trying to play chess, which I'm crap at, to be fair. But,
I'm really bad as well.
But yeah, what do I do? Fucking hell. I just kind of...
Look, it's the time you can get a girlfriend, mate. That's what you can do.
Yeah, maybe. But no, I do, I'll scalp trends. I'll scalp trend days. I just basically skip micro moves all day. So, and I basically use order flow to determine if it's a down day or an up day or a balanced day. That's kind of all I do, really.
This chart really stresses me out.
I kind of have pretty bad ADHD. So if I don't trade the 30-second chart, I'll just procrastinate and lose money. So I've either got to go all in intense or just go and play chess.
It's gone down to 90 seconds in a row, and I feel like we're entering a bear market,
Yeah.
Oh, God. Jay, what about you? If we make new all-time highs, what are you doing? Are you sitting on your hands and chilling, or are you fucking levering up every day?
The March 2022 contracts for Bitcoin and ETH listed, I think a couple days ago. I think at the monthly end of August or so. Usually 6-month contract listings are inflection points, and there's usually some sort of scam, like it goes the opposite of its trending direction. I've noticed. I could be wrong, but that's just what I've noticed. But anyway, I agree with Jim. If we're going to stall anywhere, it's going to be here. There's like a lot of metrics on chain that make you super high time frame bullish, but on a medium to like shorter term, it's a bit more ambiguous. And when I say that, I mean like maybe like a month out. I see some confluence for some sort of corrective wave to like 36K, maybe 40K or so. I see it on like some indicators like, Dan pointed out funding. I see it on, things like SOPR by Renato Shakira, that metric, and some other metrics too, like not fundamental, like momentum based. Like the daily, there's some bear divs that make me a little bit sketched. But when you zoom out and look at some higher level momentum, there's some reason to believe like, hey, like we kind of just resumes like a macro bullish momentum here. Like I shouldn't be scared of dips. I should be a buyer potentially. There's a lot of mixed signals, which is why I've kind of resorted to like a mainly like cash centric view and just trading the markets and setups as I see them until some sort of trend is like, until like bearishness is just like completely just blown out, then I can like come back with conviction and be more like spot oriented and like levered up. I'm long, like, some contracts, but I'm not sure if I'll need to hedge soon or not. So yeah.
Well, I would say you're seeing a lot of like, this is the area where you see a lot of capital rotation because they're trying to entice new participants to send it higher, basically. So that's why you're seeing like weird inverse correlations between ETH and Bitcoin over the last couple of days.
Wait, so basically you mean like the people that are in don't want to be in more to like push it to all-time highs, so you're trying to...
Basically, yeah, you're just trying to hold it up here and stab. If buyers step in, they'll send it high. If they don't, they'll send it lower, basically. But I'm not necessarily seeing as, much capital injection at this price level as it was lower, but there is obviously absorption from somewhere. It's definitely harder to read since the lows. There's definitely different people moving the market for sure.
All right, I got a magic 8-ball type question for you. If we do break all-time highs in the next week or two, what is the price at the end of October of Bitcoin and Ethereum? It's not really a fair question, is it? But I've asked it now.
I think end of October.
Yeah, 2 months basically, 2 months from now.
I almost think Bitcoin won't break all-time high in that time, but ETH might.
All right. So what's your ETH price? What's your Bitcoin price?
Oh fuck! I hate it. Like, this is what I mean. I'm a scalper. I don't fucking know. I could almost see Bitcoin ranging from here to like 56 for maybe a few weeks. Whereas ETH, if ETH breaks its high, it's probably going to mark up to like 5,600 pretty quick, I'd say.
I reckon if we break all-time highs in the next week or so, by the end of October, ETH's around 20K, 25K. Bitcoin's harder to say because it's difficult to predict the strength of it because it's at times been like stronger than everything else and more recently been much weaker than everything else. Yeah. So my range is like abnormally large and therefore cheating, but probably like 130K to 200K if they both break all-time high in the next week or so.
Kobe, the chat does not believe you, which makes me want to get very long.
only if it like breaks all-time high convincingly in the next week or two, but then it like because it's acceleration, isn't it? It's a parabolic trend. It's acceleration.
I think that's too many insiders, to be honest. But...
Look, mate, one's too many.
So December 31st, I went on a podcast. Shout out Wrecked Podcast, great name for a podcast. And they asked me to estimate what I thought would be prices for the year, and I selfishly just want to be able to flex on this later, but my prediction was 64 or 66K, something like that for Bitcoin, and 6K for ETH on the year with a multi-month like mini bear in the middle. So I kind of, from a pure flex perspective, I want Bitcoin to not make an all-time high this year while ETH does, because then I would have nailed it. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of strength if as long as the macro markets, like the legacy market, doesn't die for some reason. Yeah. But it's just been up only for so long. Like what else?
Like what we've got to do now is we've got to start putting price targets into people's heads that are so large that, like, because otherwise people start getting bearish when it hits 10k. Like ETH 10k, that sounds like quite a lot. So we've got to start making people think about 30k. So when they're at 10k, they can be still bullish. That's our job. Yeah. Look, market manipulators, Twitter influencers, gather together. So, this is our job for the next couple of weeks. You got to inception massive price targets into people's heads so they don't get bearish on the way up.
Speaking of manipulation, since the high funding rate was mentioned on the show, it's gone down.
Good.
Jim predicted it in advance, 30 seconds in advance. Funding rate's going down.
It's because I'm short ETH. That's why.
You shorted this extremely bearish setup here on the 30-second chart.
Yeah, I just told you 5,600 whilst I was filling my shorts.
That's hilarious.
That chart stresses me out way too much.
I gotta say, if we do make all-time highs through like not in the next couple of weeks, but do some like cup and handle type meme things, like break down here for a bit, make a dip, then all-time highs a bit later on, so towards October, November. I got a tweet from January that is ready to be fucking quoted. I guess ready to be retweeted. I wrote it on January 1st, and it says something like Bitcoin top 60k, massive nuke sideways till October. Like I'm fucking ready for it. I'm just looking at charts. I don't care about the money anymore. I just want it to do what the tweet said. It'll actually fuck me if it goes down. I just want the tweet to be right. I don't care about the money.
I feel like there could be a lot of interesting things though if we just go sideways. Like how much craziness could happen in the NFT market if Ethereum and Bitcoin aren't really trending heavily into all-time high price exploration, or what could happen in these altcoin markets. I feel like there's potentially more money to be made in that scenario, don't you think?
I didn't listen to you at all, actually. I was reading the chat. What did you...
This entire conversation makes it seem like 70k by the end of the month is possible. Just saying. We were going to talk about sideways and down.
Someone in the chat just said Kobe is underexposed Solana that he barely talks about on the pod. Solana's like one of the only like project episodes we've ever had, and like my third largest position. But thank you, stranger, for your commentary on my portfolio from your external psychological perception. I always appreciate the armchair psychologists. What about Cardano? What's Cardano top? What's the It's
just up only, man.
It is up only.
The whole time we've trolled it on this show. We should have just been holding it.
Did you imagine Cardano with NFTs?
I bought Cardano on the like massive crash when everything like super dumped, because I've got a hedge against like reality. I've got a hedge against my own beliefs a little bit. But what do you think happens when they release smart contracts? Is it bullish or bearish? Because it's like really soon, right? Like I'm not a believer. I'm not one of the non-believers that they'll never have them. It's like pretty soon they have the like Plutus or whatever it's called release. But is it a bullish or bearish moment? Is it like a sell the news? Like, it's all been like hype up to this, like when smart contracts are released, it's going to go infinity? Or is it like when smart contracts are released, you can suddenly have its own DeFi ecosystem. You can have Cardano dog coins. You can have Husky the Hutchie. Husky the Husky. That's gonna go infinity. It's just Hoskinson as a dog. That's gonna go fucking vertical. Husky the Husky. Or is it like, which way is it? Which way does it go?
I'd wager bearish probably. Just because it's one of those like retail hype coins.
I'd buy Husky though.
I'd imagine the opposite.
Yeah, we're all in Husky. Husky, neutral Cardano. I think there's probably going to be like a booming ecosystem of like stuff on there. Like there'll be the first There'll be like your equivalent of Trader Joe on there. There'll be your equivalent of like all the Avalanche scams on there.
And all the ADA maxis are like so rich and so convicted that they're completely right this whole time. You know, like they're just gonna throw all their ADA into that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The like ecosystem and the community is like, there's so many people there. There's like the highest search volume stuff on YouTube. If you look price prediction and then coin name, ADA's like by far the highest. So the ADA ecosystem is going to pop off like you've never fucking seen, like more than the Solana ecosystem, more than Avalanche. It's going to go fucking nuts.
Wait a second. Since we do no research on the show and know nothing, Plor in the chat said it's not EVM compatible. So that might be a problem, right? Like it's going to be really hard to launch a dog coin.
Yeah, but there's loads on Solana. There's loads of stuff that's not EVM compatible either.
That's a good point. But it's not as easy as like the same people that do the 10 dog coins on one chain, you know, port over and launch it right away.
So that means there's opportunity, mate. We just got to learn Haskell.
Like the next 3 weeks. If any Haskell developers want to contact us. Let's go.
The smart contracts are launched in ADA probably brings a dose of reality to the chain, and then you can suddenly people can start valuing it rationally and putting rational valuations to it. Kind of like the coins that pump the hardest are ones that people don't know how to value, aka scam coins. Like you then like take the scam coin away from Cardano, you take that label away, then it's like suddenly real. People are like, oh, this is incredibly overvalued.
Yeah, I think that is like potentially possible. Yeah, if you imagine, like in reality, it's probably relatively neutral ADA, like leaning slightly bearish, but like super bullish for the ecosystem stuff because everyone using ADA as like a denomination asset on Cardano to like do Ponzi's basically. And then people that are bad at Ponzi's will lose all their ADA, and people that are good at Ponzi's will have a centralized supply of ADA, which they'll want to sell back to other assets maybe. Who knows? Not me. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing anymore. I'll just get drunk on like twice a week and chat to this guy from Alabama that I've never met before. So who knows?
I love that you have that in your Twitter profile. It's so good.
We said it before the show started, but like you sound a little bit like Ted Lasso. Like you've got the same voice as Ted Lasso. And Ted Lasso is generally a British show. So like, and like loads of people in crypto are stealth British. So like me and Jim here, it just sounds like a weird episode of Ted Lasso. It's like, what are they talking about in this Ted Lasso episode? It seems to be about finance.
Lasso only. Let's go Richmond.
All right, we've been streaming for like an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. Chat, what do you want to know? Jason from Telegram, do you want to know about his future predictions? Do you want 30 seconds of the future predictions from Jim? What do you need to ask Ledger? Give us some questions and then we'll rug you and fuck off back to our real lives.
I was just thinking you should just start calling me a wanker every episode.
Does it happen? Does it happen?
I don't know. You say a lot of words that I don't understand.
What I like about sorry, Nikolai, I cannot ask that question. That would be a conflict of interest. That I like about Ted Lasso is the Roy Kent character.
He's so good.
He's so good. All right, here we go. Biggest regrets in crypto. I guess that's one for everybody. And that was asked by Mark Cuban, whose biggest regret is probably Titan.
We got asked about the loot NFTs, which they seem epic. I own 0 and I'm really upset about it. I missed the chat message where someone was talking about them being minted for free. So I missed free loot that are now worth like 12 ETH each. And then I voluntarily passed on it at 1.5 ETH each. So that's my own fault. And so now they're like 12 ETH each, and they're dropping like $20,000 a day worth of airdrops on people. So it seems insanely awesome if you have some. I do not. But it also, the other thing is it lowers the bar even further for doing NFT launches, because now you can just put some words on a like black screen and sell it for 1 ETH each or something. So
maybe that's how we should make it all back.
That's how we should do it. You want to do alpha? I don't see any.
No, it's like what the question was, biggest regret.
Oh, my biggest regret or theirs? Theirs. I don't.
Everyone's. Yours as well, mate.
I have too many.
Yours is like, I started doing this fucking podcast.
Every week I talk to people who've made it.
Jason, what's your biggest regret in crypto?
Biggest regret in crypto.
He's made every right decision.
Wouldn't surprise me. Absolute tosser.
Biggest regret in crypto. Not buying the Ethereum ICO when you saw
Not buying it.
Yeah.
the original post. What else? I don't know. It's weird because it's kind of hard to have regrets because in a way you feel kind of blessed to be in a position where you can be here in a world where the entire structure and fabric of society is kind of melting down right now. And you see all sorts of people around you suffering a lot of real world shit, you know? I just feel blessed. I don't see any regrets here. I see nothing but opportunity. So.
Yeah, like people dying all over the world and ledger status flipping fluffs.
Oh. I'm not really flipping fluffs yet. I'm just bag holding.
There's no buyers. It's not flipping. There's no buyers.
They're doing okay. I think I'm going to make it on the fluffs, but...
All right, Jason has revealed his superior mindset, the superior mindset of a trader that allows him to go forward with optimism and no sort of hindsight view. Maybe that's why he beats us all. I think it's a decent philosophy. Now, Jim, tell us the good shit. Where did you fuck up?
Well, I think being a low time frame guy, I tend to always sell my bags too early. So I tend to regret that pretty much all the time. But, kind of share a similar viewpoint. Being a low time frame guy, I'm just in and out all the time. So I kind of just dust off any sort of bad mistakes I make, as they come, really. So, yeah, just selling early. But, you just get over it, don't you?
So that makes sense. So as like a low time frame guy, you make like maybe a bunch of trades a day and you make like 6 of them are mistakes and like 10 of them are not mistakes or whatever.
Yeah. So, you just get used to losing, because
Yeah.
it's part of scalping. The trick with scalping is to win more than you lose, but you inevitably lose. Most days you take losses. So, you just get used to it.
Yeah, I think a bunch of like low time frame trading is just like getting really, really, really good at being a loser.
Yeah.
Just become excellent at being a loser, and then you make it.
The only regret you should have in crypto is if you haven't lost, because it means you're not taking enough risk.
Yeah, I do like that. I fucked up quite badly in like 2013, 2014. Lost a chunk of money and like was chatting to my friend about it. It was like my first like really major like brutal like what the fuck did I do that for type thing. And I remember it was BTC Drac, and I don't think he's on the internet anymore these days. I think he like sort of left in 2017. I remember him saying something like you haven't done your induction, or you haven't earned your stripes or some shit until you've lost 100 Bitcoin. 100 Bitcoin was much less money than it is now back then. But like, and I felt like suddenly I was like, okay, right, I get it. So like everyone's gone through this. It's not the end of the world. You just take that and figure out how to not do that again. So yeah, like I get it. Like I've done basically everything that you can ever do wrong in crypto wrong at least once, and it just means I don't do it wrong again, hopefully.
Yeah, I had somebody in my DMs the other day be like, I went in deep on this and it tanked and I don't know how I can justify taking a bath. What do I do? And I just responded to him. I was like, you got to be willing to cut the bag, because if you don't, even if you're selling the bottom, you're committing yourself to be reliant only on the outcome for what happens from there. Like you're not in control in that moment. So even if it hurts to take a loss, like you got to be willing to take a loss so that you can regain control to have another opportunity. And that's where some of my bigger mistakes have been. If I like lock in on this thesis, I'm wrong on the thesis, and then you just sit there like not in control anymore.
Yeah, I think learning to like take a loss earlier was like very good for me, because I don't let myself take big losses anymore, and so I just like if I'm wrong, I trim it straight away. Like if I'm wrong, fuck it, I get out. Like there's some evidence that suggests what I've done is bad, and I will immediately use that evidence as like to override my thesis. And sometimes it means, yeah, I make a good trade, I don't get a perfect entry, it goes against me a little bit, and I cut what would have been a great trade. But it also means that I don't end up obliterating myself, because I remember back in the good old days when you're down like a decent chunk, you don't want to sell in case it immediately reverts and you get tilted for ages, but then it just keeps fucking going down. And you're like, all right, so I was 30% down, now I'm 35% down. All right, now I'm 40% down. Fuck, well, I can't sell now because now it's definitely the bottom. Oh, now I'm 60% down. And like, just making sure I never end up in those situations. Like I'm not good at dealing with being underwater. So I'd rather just go, all right, I'll take a 5% loss or a 2% loss or a 1% loss and like fucking move on, rather than risking a bigger one. Someone said, you use stop losses? Only when I'm asleep.
Jim, I guess you have to use stop losses, right?
Not really when I'm scalping, because I kind of trade by session, so I'm not going to bed with positions very often.
Gotcha.
And if I'm in if on a rare occasion I am in a position overnight and it's in profit, I tend to I'll hedge 1-to-1 on a if I'm long, I'll short 1-to-1 and then just close it the day after, as opposed to using a stop, because stops, you always put stops in places where they're going to get triggered, pretty much, because your invalidation is one, so you either widen your stop and risk losing more past your invalidation, or you get used for someone else's entry. So
someone said in the chat, which I want to respond to, they said, you trade like very high net worth people, we plebs need to take more risk. And I think it is like completely the wrong perspective. Like in general, if crypto realizes it's like, potential upside, then you just need to be exposed to the market in general. You can take potentially more risk by moving down market caps rather than like actively putting on more risk. So you can, take positions in lower cap or earlier assets more easily, because you can put the work in and then put 100% of your portfolio into those things. Whereas if you're a high net worth person, you can't really put 100% of your portfolio into anything super low cap. But you don't like trade more or less risky based on your net worth. You take a sensible amount of risk to make returns, and that should remain relatively constant, I think, throughout your career. You don't just go like, oh, I've only got like $2,000, so I'm gonna fucking gamble my entire net worth, because like what happens if you fucking lose it? Then you have zero. The same way no one gambles their entire net worth when they're worth a lot of money, because it's moronic. It doesn't matter how much money you've got, it always is basically moronic. But instead you need a sustainable system that allows you to over time increase your portfolio. And it doesn't matter what your net worth is, your system might change a bit, you might find different opportunities, but you don't fundamentally take a ton more risk or up the leverage or whatever just because you're not worth as much as Suzu. If Suzu's like, he's a fucking expert. The people that made really high balances, like high portfolio balances from doing this, know what they're doing. If you've got like 200 quid in crypto and you just joined, you probably know what you're doing less. So Sue's probably better suited to taking more risk than you. But I think it's about
simplifying and being patient when you're new and not got as much to risk, in my opinion.
You don't know that adage about people overestimate what they can do in a short amount of time and underestimate what they can do in a long amount of time. I think that's really true in crypto. Like if you're sitting there looking at like, how am I going to 2x, 5x, 10x in like a week or 2 weeks? That's going to be quite difficult, but a lot of people in this space have turned 4 or 5 figures into 6 or 7 figures over the course of a year, or like they catch one of the waves, like they catch the NFT wave or the DeFi wave or whatever, and they pull like a 50x or 100x on a portion of their portfolio that then outweighs the majority of their portfolio. And you catch one of those and you win, but it takes patience and it takes keeping your ear to the ground with the market to like see one of those waves coming. But there's still, crypto's young enough for those waves to occur frequently.
All right. I don't see any more good questions in chat.
Somebody
you wanna ask
somebody keeps spamming. What are my thoughts on Thorchain these days? My thoughts on Thorchain these days are that it seems to be much more bullish when the network is down.
Is that because people can't transfer the Thorchain to an exchange to sell?
I don't know that they can transfer or not, but they can't get hacked when it's down. So I don't know. Like, I'm rooting for them. I'll put it that way.
It doesn't sound like you are. It sounded like you were making fun of them a little bit.
I'm just saying the number. They got hacked 3 times when it was live, and then it's gone up only now that they turned it off. So.
All right.
I just found out my girlfriend's been watching this show for the entirety, which I'm extremely petrified for tonight for. But she said her response to the "What's your biggest regret?" question would be not trusting your gut, because your gut is usually for a reason, so you should listen to it. And it's a mistake for you to not train your gut over time in these contexts and in these environments. So,
is she single?
Fuck no.
All right. Ledger, someone in chat said you've got to do a Dutch accent for closing, but you've got to ask the final question first.
I'll think about the Dutch accent. I don't have a clue.
His girlfriend in British means, oh, what's up, mate?
In the meantime, Jason, Jim, we ask for our guests to give us a little bit of alpha, something that's going to help them make it. They're trying to turn 4 figures into 6 or 5 figures into 7 or whatever. They're trying not to get liquidated. What advice do you have for them before we go?
And by the way, I just realized my pants kind of look like bullish candles.
They do. Those are up only pants.
I'm manifesting.
Yeah.
I mean, this looks a bit weird, but
I like
You are facing legend right now.
Jim, why don't you go first?
I'll give, as a trader, I'll just give I'll give a basic strategy that I give to people that are just starting out. And people are going to laugh because I'm going to talk about RSI now. but
you're going to be kicked out of Insilico's inner circle.
This is the if you don't know when to buy and what price, and you get scared about incremental movements, I always tell people look at the 4-hour RSI. And if you were in if we're in an established uptrend and the RSI is at 30, just buy it, because next time it's at 30, it'll be a lower, a higher low, theoretically. So if you can just, be strict and patient and just buy every time a momentum oscillator resets on like a 4-hour or daily, just average in. And as soon as you get a lower low on that 4-hour reset, then you know that the trend's broken, and then you cut your losses there. So that's what I would say to people just starting.
That's the exact same trading alpha that Path gave.
Oh shit! Really?
Basically,
RSI news, man. Jeez.
Yeah, what I liked about it is as soon as he gave it, the next time it happened, it didn't work. So the one time it didn't work was straight after the show.
Jason, what do you got?
So this is just alpha to help.
Wait, can we just get your girlfriends actually? Because you've done this before.
Wait, so can you restate the question? I think I understand it, but it's fine.
It's listener alpha. How are they going to make it?
How are they going to make it? Trust yourself. If you don't trust yourself, fucking trust yourself, and trust yourself enough to make mistakes and learn from them. And don't be too hard on yourself. And just don't make the same mistake more than once or twice. And if you make it twice, don't make it again. You're going to make mistakes every day, and the only mistake is not knowing how to handle yourself to progress from that. And that's really how you make it, because it doesn't matter what you're doing with that attitude. You will make it with that attitude. And you put in what you get out. So there's so much opportunity here in crypto, and that opportunity really is just people and getting to understand and learn from them and forming relationships with them. And at the end of the day, there's going to be a market when you're dead. But there's not going to be friends or family potentially. So focus on that.
Nice.
Love that about making relationships. I think that's a big part of people who have succeeded in crypto, how they did it. Thanks for being here. Kobe, you have anything?
Yeah, you got to do the Dutch accent.
Oh, Dude, I don't have the first clue what a Dutch accent sounds like.
What? All right. What about German?
Neat. I have no idea.
Just do any accent. Any accent. Australian, New Zealand.
Thank you for coming to Up Only. See you next time. Go to uponly.tv/FTX to check it out today. Make a swap directly from one asset to another. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.
That's quite good. I like that. That was quite good.